Good day, class. Today we are going to be talking about the 54th Massachusetts, which is the first black regiment to ever be formed by the United States Army. Now, just like the other videos, I'm going to tell you again, if by chance you need to stop the video, please do so. You can always pause it, rewind it, watch it over again. So you are in control, okay? This video may go fast, but again, you have control. You can rewind, pause it, and watch it over again. Okay? So without further ado, let us begin. So here is your warm-up. So look at the picture above, or I should say in front of you, and basically analyze the picture. Create a list of things you see. Now, once you finish that, the second part is, based off what you've seen, what do you think is happening and who's going to win? Don't forget, the North wore blue. So those guys you see in blue are the North, the Union. The other guys are the Confederates. Okay, so again, first part of the question, make a list of things you see. Second part, what is happening in your interpretation, what is happening, and who do you think is going to win? Now, after the Battle of Antietam, Abraham Lincoln basically said he's going to announce an Emancipation Proclamation. Now, the thing is, the Emancipation Proclamation doesn't necessarily mean all slaves are free. Basically, it's like this. When there's a war going on and another part of the country takes over another part of a country, they take their property and belongings and things like that as spoils of war. Now, what Lincoln is saying in this Emancipation Proclamation is when they, the North, go into the South and they take over an area, if there are slaves there, they are free. They are liberated as soon as they get there. Okay? That's what it really means. It doesn't necessarily mean all slaves are free. It's when we get there, they will be free. But the thing is, it's a War Powers Act. It's only effective while the war is going on. And that plays a role in the 13th Amendment, okay, but which we'll be getting to later on. Now, on January 1st, 1863, the Emancipation Proclamation takes effect. Now, the thing is, there was this thought of maybe African Americans could be in an army. But basically they had to be suitable condition, which meant they had to basically survive basic training. They had to be able to, in a sense, handle battle. Not too young, not too old, not, if there was a physical disability, they may not have been able to join. Now, this is the little reminder. Lincoln's original goal wasn't to free the slaves. He originally said, if keeping the slaves keeps the country together, I'll keep the slaves. If freeing them keeps the country together, I'll free them. His priority, his main goal was to keep the country together. Now, in February 1863, Massachusetts Governor John A. Andrews basically had this idea. Him and this other man named Frederick Douglass, whom you should remember from our past lessons. They basically get together and they discuss raising a black regiment of soldiers. Now, here's the problem. In Massachusetts, there weren't that many African American residents. The people who lived there, a lot of them, they were professionals. A lot of them were older. They couldn't. But the thing is, the word went out. Here in Massachusetts, we're going to raise a black regiment. And in just 2 weeks' time, 1,000 men volunteered. Now, the thing is, you have to remember, this is before cars, before fast trains and things like that. The fastest way of transportation was a train. And other than that, it was a carriage. And the carriages don't go that fast. The trains basically stopped every little stop they did. But people came from New York, Indiana, Ohio, Vermont. Some even came from Canada, from another country. Former slaves coming back to liberate their, fellow African Americans. Now, of those 1,000 people, about a quarter of them were slaves, or they came from slave states. They gained their freedom by going to the north. There's stories of fathers and sons joining together, um, uncles and nephews. They joined up together to fight because this was a cause worth fighting for. Now, it's one thing for a person who is up there in status, a politician, stuff like that, to say, "Oh, I believe in a war," but chances are they won't volunteer their kids. Frederick Douglass, on the other hand, his own sons, Charles and Lewis, they joined, and Frederick Douglass gave them his permission. He gave them his blessing because he believed in this cause, and so did they. So with that, the 54th Massachusetts was created. But the thing is, they needed a leader, but they needed somebody who wasn't going to look down on African Americans, you know. So the thing is, Governor Andrews knew this family, this one particular family called the Shaws, and they had a son who was wounded at Antietam, right? And the thing is, they knew this guy believed in his heart that African Americans should be free, that he did not have a racist bone in his body and that he truly believed in liberty. The thing is, the kid was only 25 years old and he's being commissioned as a colonel and in charge of a regiment. So the thing is, when the South hears about this, they basically send a declaration saying any black soldier that's caught, you're going to be sold into slavery. And any white officer who's in charge of them is going to be executed. Now, here's the thing. If you look at the picture to the right, you'll see this poster and it'll say, you can see 54th Regiment, African Descent, Colonel Robert Shaw. And then you see right below it says bounty, $100. You'll see it says pay $13 a month. That's what the guys, when they signed up, that's what they were expecting to get, $13 a month. But the thing is, the black soldiers were not paid the same as the whites. And when the first check came in, they're like, wait, we only got $10. The soldiers refused to accept their pay. And then even the white officers who were in charge of them were like, that's not fair, that's not right. And they too refused to take the pay until all of them got the same pay. Now the thing is, this did get resolved, but it was basically near the end of the war, and not all the soldiers were able to see them, see that money. But the money did go to their families, the next of kin, so the money did go to the family, if it didn't go to them personally. All right. Now, May 20th, 1863, the 54th Massachusetts consisted of 1,007 black soldiers and 37 white officers. And these guys were trained and they were ready to go. So they head into the South. But the thing is, they were prepared to go to war, to fight. And the thing is, Shaw, the colonel, he wasn't happy with their orders because their orders were to basically destroy unguarded towns that had no military importance. Basically, it's just a little town in the middle of nowhere, and just because it's there in the South, gotta destroy it. There's nothing there. And Shaw's like, we did not raise these soldiers to all of a sudden just be fighting nobody, and then all of a sudden, hey, these black soldiers are basically destroying defenseless towns. That's given a bad name. And Shaw just really didn't like that. So he complained to his superiors, about maybe changing their orders. Now, as time went on, they were basically used for manual labor, but eventually, they did get their wishes. And they did fight a battle, and they did win. But the biggest thing that got them fame happened on July 18th, 1863. Now, Colonel Shaw took 600 soldiers to attack this place called Fort Wagner. The thing with Fort Wagner is it was basically impossible to penetrate. And the only way to get through was to bust through one area. And they needed basically somebody to go through, a regiment, to go through full force, and then another regiment would follow right behind them as soon as they broke through. And then that way, another regiment can come through and they could just basically overtake the fort. Colonel Shaw volunteered the 54th Regiment, basically saying, everyone else is chickening out, we won't. I can show you what my guys can do. I believe in them. So they are basically going to go on a suicide mission. That first group is going to get massacred. The second group, maybe not as much. The third group, probably not, nowhere near close to being a massacre. But that first group is. So they left at dusk, which is when the sun goes down, and they attacked at night. Now the thing is, most of these colonels, generals, commanders, guys, they would sit in the back and basically tell their men, you go this way, you go that way, you go out the middle, and things like that. Shaw didn't. Shaw was on the front line with his men, basically being a leader, show by example type of thing. So he was up there with his men, and they basically go to the fort walls. The problem is there were 1,700 soldiers waiting for them. They were outgunned, they were outnumbered. Remember, the Confederates in the fort, they had cannons, and they had guns already loaded up and ready to go. So instead of loading, shooting, loading, 30 seconds and then shoot, no, they already had the guns ready. So they just boom, shoot, boom, shoot, boom, shoot. All right. Now, of the 600, 281 were killed, wounded, or captured. Shaw was shot in the chest trying to go over the hill, I should say wall. He died immediately. Now, remember, the men loved Shaw because they respected him. He believed in fairness. He refused the money that the army wasn't going to give to the black soldiers. So he's like, we're not going to take any either. He showed them that he cared about them and he believed in them. So when he got shot, they climbed over that wall and they started bombarding through. The thing is, the next group did start to come, but when the 54th Massachusetts went in, again, there was those 1,700 troops waiting for them, along with cannons, and they basically killed those, just about 281 of them. Now, their bodies were basically dumped in one large mass grave, and a cable was sent to the northern people saying, Shaw's body is, we have him. And this is our quote, we buried him, Shaw, with his N-words. Now, Shaw's family, they heard this. And the South basically said that to kind of be like a disgrace. Because remember, back then, the Southern people, you did not bury a white man with a black man. That was kind of like a slap in the face. But to Shaw's family, they responded, there is no holier place to be buried than surrounded by brave and devoted soldiers. They took that supposedly insult and they saw that as an honor because they knew their son believed in his men and that to be buried with them is an honor. That he died with his men and they with him, and there they're going to be together. So that's the end of this lesson. When you finish your paper, be sure to turn it into the black basket. Make sure your name's on the paper. All right. Hope you guys have a good day, and I'll see you later.